Alright, YouTube. This is officially my first video. It's nice to meet everybody. This is kidmoto22, Ryan is my name. Introduce you guys to my channel, tell you a little bit about me, my history on a bike, my bike I currently own. Let's do this. It's alright. It's good to meet everybody. My name's Ryan. kidmoto22 on my YouTube account and on Instagram. I'm going to be riding in the Northern Plains. So it'll give you a perspective of what it's like in small town North Dakota to ride. I say small town, my town's about 70,000 people, so small for a lot of you. It's the third largest city in North Dakota. Actually, by definition of city, it doesn't actually qualify. So a little bit about me. I've been riding in a few different ways for a number of years. Started out as a passenger in Southern California on the ever popular FXRT. That's the first bike that I rode on. Brand new 1984 FXRT. Rode as a passenger on that bike for a number of years. That's really where my love for motorcycling began. Was really on the back of a Harley as a passenger. It was a really great experience for me. I learned a lot about riding. I learned a lot about the culture. Now, obviously, the motorcycle culture has changed pretty significantly since the early 80s. And the area of the country that you live in, that makes a huge difference for sure. I mean, riding in Southern California is certainly a lot different than riding in the upper Midwest, without a doubt. My riding history in itself is when I bought my first bike, I bought a Kawasaki Vulcan Classic 800, 2003. I bought it brand new. I rode that bike for about 5 years, really mainly just commuting back and forth to work, riding in town. I took a couple of long trips on it, not more than 100 miles. I can't say they're not even long trips, a couple of trips. Neither one of them were more than 100 miles, but really I rode it for commuting. I wanted to make sure that what I remembered from riding when I was a kid was going to be what it was going to be like riding as an adult. And I kind of felt like, I needed to get on something other than a Harley first, even though Harley was where my heart was, and it was what I loved, and it was what I knew. I didn't know if it was going to be where I was going to land. I got into this bike really. I mean, it was a great deal. A payment was a brand new bike with a payment for under $100. I could hardly beat that. So that was pretty ridiculous. That was part of it. It was a holdover, I think, or something like that, and I got it for a steal. They wanted to eliminate their inventory, so I really couldn't pass that up. Even though at the time I could have probably got myself a Sportster for 110. I just figured I really wanted to start on something else. If I was going to say something about any other piece of motorcycling, I needed to have some background. I needed to say, hey, I've ridden I've ridden a metric bike. I've ridden a Harley. This is why I love it. This is why I don't. And so, the only way I could do that was to ride one, was to own one, to actually have some skin in the game per se, and be able to comment legitimately on what it was like to ride a different style of motorcycle. And so there you go. I got that Vulcan, and like I said, you know, it was, I'm a pretty decent sized guy. I'm 6'3", weigh 230 pounds. So riding at 800 was fine for me. But anytime I put a passenger on that bike, it was, you know, it really kind of, I could feel the pull. I could feel it, you know, really wanting to, you know, to have more there. And my, you know, after a few years, my riding progressed. I wanted to ride on something bigger. I wanted something with more power, more torque, and so my wife and I were in a little bit of a transition phase. I was going to be taking a job that was going to be 35 miles from our house. I didn't think that I wanted to use that bike to commute back and forth. I wasn't really interested in spending a bunch of money modifying it. I did a few things to it. I put some Vance & Hine pipes on it. I put a sissy bar backrest on it, but that was really it. I didn't dig too far into that bike, and so I really wasn't going to spend a lot of time on it. So I sold that bike. I got a decent price for it. I mean, I sold it, I think, for like probably $3,000, which was, you know, which was a pretty good deal. It had like maybe, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 miles on it. I mean, I barely put any miles on it. I change oil every year, but you know, as far as maintenance, that bike needed nothing. I mean, that was the one thing that was really great about it. The bike needed no maintenance whatsoever. So I mean, for if you want to just get on a bike and ride and don't want to do anything to it, that was a perfect bike for that. Maintenance, like I said, was next to nothing. But beyond that, after I sold that bike, went a couple of years without a bike, and then I bought a Sportster. I bought a 2009 1200 Nightster. And I tell you what, that bike was an absolute joy to ride. I loved every minute of that bike. It was torquey enough. It handled just fine on. I did some commuting back and forth to work, and I actually rode that for about 4 seasons. And you know, if not for my desire to really go on long trips, ride across country, ride across a few states, if it wasn't for my desire for wanting to do that, I would have kept that bike. I loved it. I love the Sportster platform. You can make those bikes into, you know, absolutely anything you want. Mine was black and orange, kind of the traditional Harley colors, which I absolutely loved. It was had a little bit of a club style flair to it, which the direction I was going in was definitely with that. I had mini apes on it, but I was going to put some T-bars on there. I had a Memphis Shades Gauntlet fairing, which I love, burly bar, sissy bar in the back. It had Screaming Eagle pipes on it when I got it, in a heavy breather air cleaner, and I was going to be changing out both of those. I was going to put an Arlen Ness air cleaner on there, and I was going to put some Bassani 2-in-1 pipes on it. I really wanted to go with the club style, but I love that look of bike, and they're really fun to ride. And if I lived someplace more urban, I absolutely would have kept, you know, kind of kept in that vein and kept on that bike. But because I didn't live in any place urban, because I really lived in more of a I live in more of a rural area, and my riding is a lot of my riding is commuting back and forth to work. And so, and it's 35 miles one way. I mean, when I ride to work, I put 70 miles on a bike in a day. And while the Sportster handled it just fine and handled the road just fine, and everything there was good, it was not the platform for me for long-term riding. I wanted to be in a different riding position. I needed a bike that was bigger for my size, and I wanted a bike that was bigger, was a larger displacement, that had, you know, a larger gas tank, could go longer in between stops. That was one of the things that I really did not enjoy. I absolutely love the look of the peanut style tank, the 3.5 or 3, I think it was 3.2 gallon. That look of that traditional tank was absolutely amazing. I love that look of that tank. But that 3.2 gallon tank, driving 35 miles a day, I could go back and forth to work and then back to work one more time. And then I needed to put gas on. That was just that kind of riding, putting gas on a bike every other day when I wanted to ride. a lot more was not for me. I really felt like I needed something that had a bigger tank, and that I could ride more, that I could ride more in between gas stops and put more miles on at one time. And so there I was, in a position that I needed to look for a different bike. And it was funny because I had decided to do some mods on this bike. That was going to be my winter project for this last winter. I was going to spend a whole winter setting up that Sportster to be exactly the way that I wanted it. And so I went about to do that. And as I got into it, and as I got into the project and started doing it, I did a couple things, and I was setting aside money for parts. And I actually was going into my local Harley dealership to buy new exhaust. I don't remember. It was something for the exhaust I was getting. Anyway, so I went in to buy these parts, and I was on my way out. Actually, I had my 7-year-old daughter with me. I was on my way out, and I walked by. They had a 2019 Road King Special sitting on the showroom floor. Had the wind splitter windshield like I have on this bike here, and it was the really dark blue color. And the salesman said, "Have you ever sat on one of these?" And I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "Swing a leg over." And so I did. I sat down, I swung my leg over the bike, and I knew right then I had made a mistake. And not necessarily a mistake on the bike, but I made a mistake in the idea that it immediately changed my way of thinking. Immediately I knew that I wanted to be on that kind of bike. I always loved the looks of the Road King. To me, the Road King is the perfect mix between a bagger and a Softail, for instance. It has a little bit of the more that open styling. It doesn't have a huge fairing on it, but it has the displacement of the bagger. It's on the bagger platform, has the hard bags on it. The Special Res has the hard bags on it, so you're really in that that platform that is that's great to go with. And so I went about looking for another bike. That was on like a Tuesday. I got home that day and that night, and I started searching, and in fact, the same dealership that I bought my Sportster from, which is about 200 miles from my hometown, the same dealership had this bike. I looked at it. The bike was amazing, had everything I wanted, and I thought, well, there's no way that this bike is going to be on, it's going to still be for sale. I sent an email. It was like at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night to see if the bike was still for sale. And I got a call from the finance manager at like 9:30 the next morning, and she said, "Absolutely, it's still for sale." And I said, "Well, here's what I got for trade. Can we work out some numbers?" And she called her boss back and came back to me, and we worked out some numbers. Kind of went back and forth a little bit, and they went up a bit, or they went down a bit, and I went up a bit, and we met in the middle, and I couldn't be happier. We made a deal, and the irony behind it is that we made a deal on Tuesday. The following Thursday, I signed papers, and they delivered the bike to me in my hometown, 200 miles away, the next day on a Friday. So from the time I decided that I wanted the bike until the time that I got it was less than a week. And the crazy thing is that for me, it was at the end of my riding season. So I had ridden my Sportster for the last time. So I got the bike delivered to my house, and I did not even ride it until March of this year. It sat in my garage all winter long, which now I realize was a dumb mistake. Just sat in my garage, and I just, I kind of was like, well, I'll ride it this season, and then I'll start doing some stuff to it. and I looked at the bike, and then I was like, well, I can do this. This doesn't cost very much, and I can do this, and I can do this, and before you know it, I put new pipes on it, and got a rick rack for the bag for the back, the King HD luggage rack, wind splitter windshield, new grips. I mean, you know, I got some Moons MC lights for the front, company out of California. I love those guys. Great product. LEDs that I put in the front. I got some Serial 3D lights in the back. I kind of started and I kind of couldn't stop. It was all about, you know, that's what we do, right? We make them our own. And that's where I was at, just making the bike my own. So I just wanted to take a few minutes and kind of introduce myself to everybody, tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about my bike and a little bit about riding. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, you know, try to put out some videos here and there and take you guys on some journeys with me. I got some trips planned. Can meet up with Great Egret Joe. If you haven't followed him, follow him on his channel. Gonna go to the Midwest Moto Meetup in September. That's gonna be a great time. Hopefully I can get some footage on my way to the Midwest Moto Meetup and take you guys with me on that ride. That's gonna be it's gonna be a pretty fun trip out there in southern Illinois. Gonna meet some good guys out there. It's gonna be a great time. So this is Kidmoto saying ride safe and ride your ride. I'm out.